This is the house Mom lives in Clayton, North Carolina. First inspection of this crawl space showed a lot of effluence on the walls, meaning water coming through and leaving this white marks. A lot of mold on the joists and insulation. Humidity was at 100%. Installed a gauge under there to start tracking that. And every time it would rain, the water would penetrate the foundation and would run across the plastic into the lowest part of the crawl space and eventually would leach out, but sometimes it would get 6-8 inches high in the corner there after a heavy rain. All right, just trying to show what's going on here on the outside of the house. Soil here is mostly clay, and so what was happening is the water would penetrate the soil, hit that clay, and run towards the house and penetrate the foundation through the foundation wall, and then there was nowhere for the water to go, so it would just puddle and then run to the lowest portion of the crawl space. The lowest spot in the crawl space was that corner back there. And when they built this house, they actually put left a hole in the foundation wall, I guess, so whatever water got in the crawl space would leach out through that hole. You'll see the hole here in just a second. Right there it is. And I guess their idea was it would leach out through that hole and leave the crawl space. Not a good idea, particularly since they piled dirt upon the house and basically plugged the hole. But anyway, the water would leach out through this lowest point of the house. It would leach out into the yard, and then it would kind of puddle back here on this back side of the house. But it would take several days for whatever water came in the foundation to run to this back side and leach out into the yard. This is just a diagram showing what happens when the rain comes down and what happens in the soil. And this is just a close-up of some of the mold that was found in the crawl space. And all the penetrations were unsealed to the outside. This is more inspection up in the crawl space. You can see how it's wet and muddy, and I had started digging next to the foundation, and you can see how the trench is just filled up with water running back to that lowest side of the foundation. You can see that the foundation vents are open to the outside. Humidity was at 100%, just a wet, damp environment. Crawl space wall on initial inspection before I started digging, and you can see how the water was just running down this wall. You can actually see it moving there a little bit. And this was after a rain, and there was a lot of plastic layers under there where they had kept putting layers under there thinking that was going to help, and the water would just run under the layers or over the layers, or depending on how much rain they got. But there was always water in the crawl space, and it was always very damp. And the humidity in the house was about 75% at this time. Started tracking the humidity in the house and also in the crawl space. This is just showing more areas of the crawl space where the water was coming in. This video is a little long, but I wanted to give you an idea of what was going on around the whole perimeter. And a lot of water was coming in and then running down the walls. And you can see the penetrations there. Again, none of them were sealed. All of them were just where they had knocked holes in the block and brought out their pipes and didn't seal them back up or anything. And pulling back the plastic, exposing the wet areas and the effluents on the block is from the water coming in, soaking into the block. Just going up towards the front of the house. And you can see up here, there's a spot in this corner where the foundation, they used some brick, I guess, they're doing the foundation, kind of left some holes there in that corner, the water puddling. And there was actually a spot up on top of the foundation wall right there where it was a crack open to the outside air. No water was getting in there, but it was just another crack, another area where moist air could just be pulled in. I sealed that up with foam sealer eventually, but this just shows more of the same in this crawl space. Alright, this is on the outside of the house. This is showing that corner where I was talking about. You could see, I put a flashlight behind there and you can see the light coming through in this corner. The next thing I did was install 14-2 wire all the way around the crawl space with receptacles so I could buy some LED garage lights to install in these light fixtures. There was 6 of them installed to light the crawl space area. So the next thing that needed to happen in this project was to dig the trench around the inside of the foundation for the French drain. A lot of it was pretty muddy. It's all clay. There was no rocks, but wet clay was really hard to move. This little spot right here is kind of dry, but it was muddy and messy the whole way, and just picking and shoveling, and probably worked on this for at least a month and a half, digging all this out. Show my little shovel here in a minute. Really came in handy. Little short shovel. Had about 36 inches to work with, height-wise. This little shovel really came in handy. This is just a little bit more of what kind of conditions I had for digging. See the water there? Trying to fill up my ditch as I was digging. And pretty messy. You can see in this video the way the crawl space is drying out from the dehumidifier and lack of water coming in. This is just more examples of the digging around the foundation. Eventually I did get it all dug out, and this is when I started putting the French drain material. This is a perforated pipe wrapped with a plastic peanut media, so you don't have to use gravel, which saved a lot of work dragging bags of gravel up in there. But then you put this soil separator over top of it and you cover it with dirt, and whatever water comes in the foundation will go into this pipe and run down towards the lowest place in the crawl space where the sump pump basin will be.
You gonna wave or anything? There he goes, around the corner.
This is the April Air 1820 that I installed. It has an 8-inch induction and exhaust, and it comes with a hanger kit. Super nice. Around this same time, before I fired up the dehumidifier, I killed the mold and mildew with a fungicide disinfectant, and then I had to vacuum it off with a HEPA vacuum, and actually worked pretty good. Most of it came off. Tried to protect myself best I could and created a negative airflow in the crawl space with this little setup. Seemed to work okay. Around this time, I did all my foam sealing on the rim joists, the foundation vents, and all the penetrations, and just pulling out junk and crap from under there. Also removed was the old bladder from the well that we no longer use. So this is where I started preparing the sump basin, digging a deep hole down there in that low corner and getting it ready to install. That'll be where the drain line will come into it. You can see the hole there in the foundation, which got filled with foam sealer eventually. And had to prepare the sump basin by drilling some holes in it, getting it ready to put in the hole with the gravel around it, and those flat places cut out for where the drain lines will go into it, and then placed it in the hole with all the rock. And here you can see the Zoller pump that I bought, very high rated, and had to get a check valve to install there, a quiet one, watch out. And it does show a little bit here more of the drain pipe that I used with this plastic media around it, and a lot of rock. So the next move was to prepare for the vapor liner, and I drilled 1/4-inch masonry holes into the mortar to accept the Christmas tree fasteners for the vapor liner, every 6-8 inches all the way around the perimeter, about 280 feet. Once that was done, it was on to starting to install the vapor barrier around the foundation walls, extending a foot or so into the crawl space area. This was a 20 mil reinforced vapor barrier, and it was folded over at the top and attached with Christmas tree fasteners, and then later sealed with white lightning caulking. Just going on around the crawl space here, showing the liner up on the wall. All that had to be tucked and folded and tightened up around the corners and edges. This is the white lightning caulking that I got from Crawl Space Depot in Greensboro. I got pretty much a lot of my supplies. And this is the sump pump installed and a GFI outlet that I had to put up there. And I'm just showing here where the white lightning is used to seal around that top edge where the vapor barrier meets the wall. And you can see the Christmas tree fasteners there. From there, it was on to installing the vapor barrier around all the piers and the floor and laying it out under all of the air handler and sealing it all up with the tape. And this is just me laying out some tape on some of the seams. It was getting to feel pretty good down under there, a lot drier and of course cleaner. But that's some sticky tape, very sticky. This is backing up a little bit, but it's just showing where I had to go around sewer lines and doing around the piers and trying to tape off every possible place for moisture to come up. It was at this point that I installed a couple of devices. This is a pump spy, tracks the sump pump, the gallons per day, etc. And then I had a dehumidifier that I could look at on my phone and track the humidity in the crawl space as it was falling. Then I also spent about $29 on a streaming webcam to put in the sump pump so I could actually see the water coming out of the drain lines during heavy rain. Okay, getting most of the liner in. Now it was time to move on to repairing the frame and door for the crawl space. And the door was in pretty bad shape, was routed off at the bottom. The inside plywood was okay. I did salvage it because at $100 a sheet, that way I only bought a half a sheet and I was able to salvage the inside piece there you see. And I used a new piece on the outside. That's my frame, all ready to stick together with the adhesive. I've installed the new frame pieces and just going to attach into the masonry with a concrete anchor, and replaced all this wood with treated wood. And then the doorway was ready for a little test fit on the door that I rebuilt. You see that coming up here in a second. And you can see here that the door did fit pretty good. Slipped right up in there. And I put a foam seal around the edges to seal out the air. And this is just a look of the door after paint. I did redo this crawl space entrance area, also with some pavers and stuff. And this is just the door. I did not paint the backside yet, so still a few finished touches to do, but this is the finished door. You see the sump pump reservoir there. All of the liner is done all the way up around the back of the door, all sealed up with the tape. So you get a little look at the water heater here. I had to drain that so I could put the liner under it. Everything's looking pretty good about now. Just a few finishing touches to go. In front of the house here. And in those other videos before, you saw this side of the house where I was talking about how the water was coming down this side and getting in that corner over there. And you can see there where the ground's exposed. That's where I put the line from the sump pump. So the sump pump comes out here and goes a foot or so underground, all the way over there. That white pipe beyond the shed. And just looking at stuff. This is a cart I used a lot for wheeling back and forth to the job site. All my junk was a lot easier. I had a cover here, shelter, which made it nice, but I've taken it down. And you can see a little bit better now the area where I finished. I dig that out quite a bit, put some pavers there and gravel, and use some of the rocks that were already there to help blend it in, hopefully. So redid the door, of course. Used these black hinges, brand new wood all around. Got these kind of neat little handles here, liked them. The crawl space area is lit up all the way around with these LED screw-in fixtures for garages, and they are pretty bright all around. So we'll take a look up in there in a minute, but I wanted to show you here first. Let me get up in here. So this is the switch for the lights. And this is a GFI outlet installed there where the sump pump plugs into, and that device right there is a pump spy device, and what it does is it keeps track of the got my another phone here so I can show you the details. It keeps track of the sump pump and everything. See, it has the there, and it shows you the cycle history. You can look and see here the dates and how many times it came on and how many gallons it pumped out. And you can see here we haven't had rain for a few days, so it's been only getting about 5 gallons a day, which is pretty much the condensation off the dehumidifier and the air conditioner. But one day it got a little shower, got 11, and then it had a pretty big rain back on the 2nd, and it pumped out 54 gallons that day. And then actually it's down here a little bit more where it rained off and on. And one day it got up to 69 gallons, so that was pretty special. So that is in there. And then also there is a wireless camera there. And you can, I'll show you here, I have another app here where it shows a live feed. And you can see the water dripping. See the water dripping. You can see the 2 hoses, the 2 drain lines. One comes from one side of the house and the other one over there. And when it's raining hard, water comes out of there. And then this right here is a high water sensor. So if it were to get high in there, the pump were to stop working for some reason, it would give me an alarm on my phone to tell me that there's too much water down here and something needs to be done. So that's pretty good. And then also part of this whole project was installing a humidity gauge in the crawl space. And what it does is it's this device here, and you can see the humidity right now is at 39.7%. And if you click on that, it'll show you an up to date what it's doing today. You can go day, week. So if you go month, you can see where it's dropped off since June 10th. It started dropping down when I was finishing here and keeping the door closed and getting all the vapor liner on and sealed up. And if we go year, should show from when I installed it, it just drops off, just where you can see where when I started the project it was way up in there in the 90s, and then it just plummeted once I got this thing sealed. All right, so that's going on over there in the corner by the door. Got a nice handle on the inside of the door too. And the water heater's here. Had to drain and put the liner under that, of course. And up that way, the rest of the crawl space that way. All of it's, if you were going to work on the air conditioner now, you'd go around this way and it's all well lit and clean. And this is the dehumidifier here, the April Air dehumidifier installed. This is that 8-inch line that does the induction. It inducts air over there, and then it blows it out down this way about 20 feet. And you can set it there, pull it down, and it'll keep it whatever you want in here. I don't know, I'll probably raise it up to around 40 or 50, but I just want to keep it extra dry for a while. And let's take a walk up this way. There's the dehumidifier gauge I used, and a little bit of residue on these beams from the old mold, but most of it came pretty clean. Somebody had come in here and did an inspection one time, but I guess that's about it. What a difference. 4 months and about $3,500. Mom's happy. Thanks for watching.